New generation facilities that have been built since the dawn of democracy. It's a continuation of a chapter in the life of corrections. I also wish to thank the Portfolio Committee for the opportunity to provide this political overview for all the departments. Honorable members, as you are fully aware, annual reports provide us with an opportunity to hold up a mirror to ourselves and assess what has gone right, consequences has entrenched itself. Most as members have correctly pointed out, performance is not about ticking boxes, but it's about changing people's lives. Ours is to make the justice system more accessible and to enable as much as possible the participation of the lay people into our system. In the second instance, it is critical to ensure that as much as possible, we have a just criminal system which enhances the respect for the courts and obedience to the rule of law. These are not boxes to be ticked, but real-life problems. As the ministry, our assessment is that the administration needs to be re-engineered significantly for it to meet the expectations of South Africans, and we are currently spearheading this process. I can state that rebuilding this critical part of our administration is in progress. The department is in desperate need of renewal. We hope that upon the conclusion of the public administration and cabinet process, the new Director General will add impetus into the renewal process of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. We have appointed the Chief Master and the DDG Corporate Services. The appointment of the Chief Master and the Deputy Director General for Corporate Services have been long overdue. Nonetheless, these appointments give us the opportunity to reinvigorate the Master's office and also the level of corporate services. We now have gives us an opportunity to ensure that we attract the best personnel in the right places. But also, it will help us to drive the project or the program to fill the other vacancies in the department. Having said that, honorable members, in our 15,000 strong workforce, there are thousands of people who are diligent, are at the forefront of making our justice system more accessible. During COVID-19, these civil servants served South Africans across 2,283 courtrooms and 748 courthouses. Sadly, some of these 29 November 2020, which have been declared as the 5 days of national mourning. We will be paying tribute to 6 magistrates, 3 prosecutors, and 7 administrative staff whom we have lost to COVID-19. Honorable members, having assessed the department's performance, I have called on the senior management in the department to conduct a root cause analysis of the problems we see in the department. This is also to ensure that we develop a rescue plan as recommended by this August committee. This rescue plan will set in motion plans to address the concerns of the portfolio committee, the Auditor General, the Internal Audit Committee, and the audit committees immediately. Furthermore, Chairperson, it is absolutely critical that senior management take accountability and lead from the front in addressing the challenges. In the root cause analysis, we have identified the following areas within senior management which needs urgent attention. 1, high-level leadership instability, the lack of capacity, lack of proper performance management, lack of decisive decision-making, no defined organizational culture leading to a culture of non-performance, lack of ethical tone in the department. The following actions will have to be undertaken by the end of the current financial year. Firstly, realign the microstructure. Secondly, the implementation of the corrective actions and consequence management. Thirdly, a skills audit will be conducted to assess the skill set of our middle and senior management. These 3 tasks are critical and must be implemented without delay. It's a mandate we have given to the current senior management of the department. Honorable members, the supporting of the reconstruction of the National Prosecuting Authority remains an ongoing task. This is ultimately the reconstruction of the state itself. Whilst we exercise political oversight over the NPA, their operations and decisions to prosecute or not are independent from any form of political interference. They should prosecute without any fear, favor, or prejudice. Therefore, ensuring it has all the capacity to address all manner of ills that manifest themselves in our society is critical, and this includes corruption. It is against this background that the President has appointed also senior managers at the NPA, the National Deputy Directors of Public Prosecution. He appointed 3 during this period. We will continue to find every rand and cent in the system to capacitate this institution. Capacitating the NPA is an investment to not only regain confidence for the rule of law, but also to recoup all the monies which have been lost to corruption. Honorable members, in the midst of extraordinary challenges and uncertainty, Chairperson, I think I made a mistake. It's 2, not 3 senior national deputy directors of public prosecutions. In the midst of extraordinary challenges and uncertainty as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak, which has affected every sphere of society, political and economic, social and technological, environment and the legal sphere, the correctional services environment is not an exception. It is indeed a fact that COVID-19 pandemic has caused huge disruption in the way in which we live and work. However, we have an unprecedented opportunity to learn from the current experience and draw lessons for the future, including the design of optimal system, the design and enhance access and quality of service, as well as cost curtailment. The department's response to the unprecedented health challenge of COVID-19 fully respect the right and dignity of everyone under its care. Thus far, the department has handled with great aplomb. The recovery rate is at 95% as we speak. As you are aware, Honorable Chairperson, the department release every day daily reports in terms of the number of officials that are affected and the number of inmates. Since the beginning of COVID-19, we had a total number of 7,462. 4,674 were officials and 2,788 were inmates. And recoveries has been 7,193, and we are only left now with 137, not 1,000, 137 active cases across the country. The death cases is 182. So this chairperson has signaled that the department has handled this COVID-19 with care and also responded well. And so far as performance for the previous financial year is concerned, over the 5-year medium-term strategic framework period, 2015 to 2020, the department continued to use its allocated budget to deliver on its core programs. We have reached the highest performance for the MTF period, recording 86%. This is a great improvement from the 62% in 2015-2016. The Department of Correctional Services will strive to improve its audit outcomes, which continues to be a challenge. We have a roadmap that we have adopted, and this will result in us once and for all addressing issues of irregular expenditure. The department is also prioritizing consequence management, and a backlog of disciplinary processes is currently being attended to. As I speak to this committee chair, we have also prioritized in the Department of Correctional Services the filling of vacancies at senior management level. And I'm proud to state that we have also appointed 3 CDCs in the past 5 months. If there is one thing that COVID has helped us with, the chairperson, was also to get time to attend to these issues of filling of vacancies. And as we go to the office of the Chief Justice Chair, you would hear that we have also appointed there. So this period has not only been bad, but it has also been good in terms of giving us time, but also to use these kind of platforms to do our work. We remain committed to strengthen the financial management of the department. Overcrowding in the correctional facility remain a challenge for the Department of Correctional Services. This is a multi-dimensional issue. The causes of overcrowding are not confined to the limits of criminal justice, but extends to other spheres of the state responsibility, such as social welfare policies, access to health services, education, employment, among others. The increase in offender population continues to present unavoidable challenges to overcrowding in the correctional facilities. The inmate population for 2019-20 was recorded at 166,449 against the approved bed space total of 120,567. We welcome the announcement by the President of the Republic, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, in December 2019 of the special remission, which has led to the release of 14,647 low-risk inmates into the community corrections, and through this process, overcrowding was reduced to 28%. Although the special remission of sentence assisted in alleviating is not the final solution to overcrowding management, but a short-term relief, as honorable members will always raise this issue. This has indeed eased up the pressure on officials in ensuring safety and security of inmates at our correctional facilities. It has also enabled us to manage the pandemic of COVID-19. It has also led to the reduction of escapes, injuries, and unnatural death as compared to previous financial years. The department's multi-pronged strategy to address overcrowding is stabilizing the inmate population through various interventions, including the increase of available bed spaces through renovations, limited expansions and upgrading of correctional facilities, a reduction of awaiting trial detainees, greater integration within the criminal justice system, and progressively optimizing use of legal instruments at our disposal. We have opened the Mkandule and the Zanini Correctional Centers. The Mkandule Correctional Center was opened on Monday by the Deputy Minister, Inkosi Patekile-Olomisi. And as I've said when I started, we have opened the Zanini Correctional Center, and I'm speaking is because it's a smart modern technology facility. And the special COVID-19 parole dispensation has also assisted us to reduce overcrowding to 15.9%. Honorable members, the NDP implores us to invest appropriately and build comprehensive partnerships to close the proverbial revolving door by limiting the chances of citizens relapsing into a life of crime. The department remains committed to reduce recidivism by ensuring that our correctional facilities are transformed into safe and secure spaces that are truly rehabilitative. Providing the best correctional services for South Africa remains our vision. Therefore, the work done during the year under review was informed by the need to create an environment that will strengthen safety and security and enhance offender rehabilitation. Our continued focus on delivering a more sustainable and effective correctional system is thus in keeping with the call of the department's vision. With regards to the Office of the Chief Justice, the NDP calls for a need of a strategy to strengthen the independence of the judiciary. The establishment of the OCJ is one of the strategies to strengthen judicial governance and the rule of law. It also seeks to address court administration inefficiencies that denude people of their right to access justice as espoused in the NDP. Chapter 4 of the NDP also provides that judicial governance and encompasses issues such as administration of the courts. The Constitution entrusts me with the responsibility to rationalize the courts with a view to establish a single judicial system that is in line with the provisions of Section 166 of the Constitution. This is a continuous responsibility that requires the executive branch of the state to work together with the judiciary. The Department of Justice and Constitutional to ensure that we continue percent. Also, in the Office of the Chief Justice, we filled senior vacancies at the level of the DDG to continue the strengthening of their work. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 3 DDGs that we have also filled in that office. Hence, I have said one of the advantages of the COVID-19 was to give us an opportunity to attend to this important task of filling vacancies. The following are some of the successes of the OCJ since establishment. The provision of technical support to the Chief Justice in his international obligations in view of the Constitutional Court's membership to the World Conference on Constitutional Justice and Conference of Constitutional Jurisdictions of Africa. The vacancy rate is currently at 7.2%, below the 10% target. Improvement in the audit outcome and qualified audit outcomes in the 2016-17 and clean audit outcome in 2 consecutive financial years. The department achieved 74% of its targets in 2015-16, 90% in 2016-17, 100% in 2017-18, and 90% in 2018-2019. The acquisition of new offices accommodation for the OCJ National Office, capacitation of judges, presidents' offices with the support to manage court performance information, appointment of statisticians in all superior courts, and the operationalization of the Limpopo division of the High Court and the Mpumalanga division of the High Court as part of improving access to justice for all. In conclusion, Chairperson, I want to assure honorable members that we have heeded their calls. There will be no room for complacency in the department. We will hold officials accountable and turn around the departments. The era of lack of consequent management for poor performance is over. Those who are not willing to perform as required will be dealt with harshly. South Africans deserve nothing but a better service, and we are at the disposal of the people of South Africa. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the political overview. I will now note members who would want to make inputs on the political overview by the Minister. I've noted Honorable Horn, Honorable Glennis Breitenbach, in that order, Honorable Jacqueline Mfukeng, Honorable Nivo Tracham, Honorable Stephen Swart. Let's start with Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the overview. It's good to hear that you have a busy diary, Minister.
Sorry, Honorable Horn. I think one mistake that Minister, I think you should correct immediately. You talked about magistrates that left us because of COVID-19 and the prosecutors, but there was also a judge of the High Court. I think it would be important that is corrected.
Yes, there was also a judge of the High Court in the Eastern Cape Provincial Division.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Honorable Horn, for that interruption. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the reality is that I think you, like in the past, it performs very well in analyzing the weaknesses and the difficulties at the departments for which you are responsible. And I think, obviously, we have to commend you on, once again, listing the issues that is in need of urgent attention from your side and from leadership side in these departments. However, I think what is lacking is an explanation as to why the critical issues that you listed last year remain critical issues. So, for example, it is good to hear that consequence management remains a top priority in order to address poor performance and maladministration and possible corruption within the ranks of the department. But we cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that on all objective scores, very little in terms of consequence management at least the Department of Justice and the Department of Correctional Services materialized over the last 12 months. So I think we must ask for more details as to why this did not really materialize. Minister, similarly, I think it is to be welcomed where senior management vacancies are being filled, but it must be said that it remains a concern that the Director General in the Department of Justice position has not been filled. And I think if one takes into account the admission from the Deputy Minister, the other side, that the position, while technically not yet vacant, really was for all practical purposes vacant for months before the previous Director General really vacated the seat. We cannot overstress the fact that this is a big concern, given the fact that even on your analysis, the lack of accountable and effective leadership is one of the core core issues that has led to the further deterioration in performance at the Department of Justice. Then, Chair, with your permission, I want to turn to a few issues which unfortunately the Minister has not addressed in his political overview, and which I think must be placed on his agenda as something that needs urgent attention. The first is the whole issue of ICT at both the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, where the one thing that COVID as a knife has cut open for all to see is the fact that the hundreds of millions of rands spent in respect of the development or the attempted development at an integrated criminal justice system and an integrated inmate management system has really been money that has been thrown down the drain. There's very little, if anything, to show for these projects that in the case of the integrated criminal justice system has come over more than a decade, and in the case of the integrated inmate management system has proceeded despite fair warning to the department that this is a stillborn project. And I want to urge the Minister to update the committee as to what his involvement in arresting this situation at these departments will be, because we simply cannot have a situation where if these projects are not going to ever be successful, that we continue to throw good money that this country does not have after bad problems. So if the Minister can address that issue, it would be appreciated. Similarly, and I know we've dealt with it to an extent during even the oral question session, the Minister is urged to deal decisively with the fact that capital expenditure in terms of the build program of both the Department of Justice and DCS is simply not value for money. And we're equally glad with him that he can finally address us from a completed Tsenin correctional facility. But the fact that he's speaking from there is just a perfect example of how the people's money has been squandered by DCS with capital build projects that must ease overcrowding over the last years. This project was announced in 2007, 13 years ago. It was twice stopped because, ironically so, the same contractor twice went bankrupt. And this is not something that will go away unless there is decisive action. And it is of a concern to me that the Minister has not mentioned this as something that has his attention and that will get his decisive intervention. And then lastly, Chair, the one other issue that has not been mentioned by the Minister, and we've previously said it, COVID-19 and the tension between the Minister and the Chief Justice has with decisiveness shown that the final settlement about our court administration model is something that must be done in order to ensure that there is not more than the necessary tension between the executive arm and the judicial arm of the state. So it is of a concern that we are forever only being told that Cabinet and an interministerial committee and a subcommittee is now dealing with a further proposal, But this issue is also coming with us since the late 2000, the first part of 2000s. The first models that were presented come from 2009 onwards, and 11 year onwards, there is no finality in respect of that issue. Lastly, Chair, although I'm fully aware that the Minister is not the primary role player in this respect, I would have hoped to also hear from the Minister as to what plans the security cluster, in which he plays a vital and a leading role, is making to address the situation of high profile people, not always necessarily even South Africans, who escape facing justice in our country. We've had the Guptas, we've had Omar al-Bashir, and the last example is now in this week with the self-proclaimed Shepherd Bushiri, who now apparently sits very smugly in Malawi. And I would have hoped that the Minister would have addressed this issue as well, because ultimately, Minister, this is an issue that erodes the public confidence in the justice system as a whole. And you have you are one of the primary custodians of our justice system. So I would have hoped that you would have addressed this blot on another blot on our record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Glenis Breitenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Minister. I'm partially covered by the Honourable Horn, and I must emphasise the point that he made, that the performance of the department is in a continuous decline. It's a matter of serious concern. This is one department that really serves the South African public, and at the moment it's not doing that job. It's becoming not only embarrassing but deeply concerning that the inability to turn the performance of the department around. It's been in decline for years, and in fairness, you're a new minister, but you have been there for some time now, and you have had the opportunity to make an impact. We'd like to see the results of that impact, and how you turn around the fact that there's really just no consequence management in the Department of Justice at all. You mentioned that one of the things that you're doing to turn this around is to conduct a skills analysis of senior members. I find that a little bit worrying. Senior members are appointed into very senior positions at very high salary scales. And the skills should have been sorted out long before they were appointed. But to conduct a skills audit among senior members if they do not have the set of skills that they're required to have, then they should not have been appointed. And for that, there must be consequence management too. So I would be very interested, and I'm sure the other members of the community would be very interested to find out the outcome of this skills audit. And how many senior members have in fact been appointed who do not possess the skill set required for their positions. The lack of accountability is, as you say, a result of very poor leadership. And as the Honourable Horn pointed out, the buck stops with you. And so you're going to have to step up and provide the leadership. You're going to have to lead by example. And I have no illusions about how difficult the job is and how big the job is. It's a massive portfolio, and I understand that it requires a huge amount of time and effort, but you're a relatively young man and you must have the energy and you must provide the leadership. You've got to step up. So this lack of accountability can no longer be an excuse. It's been an excuse for some time now. It's been an excuse for longer than the past year. And it really does need to be attended to so that we can see some tangible results. One of the areas that are of great concern, of course, is the Master's office. This morning, I drove through the city of Cape Town past the Master's office. There was a queue outside the Master's office at 10:30 in the morning, 2 street blocks long. So at the rate that people were being let in, there was no chance that the people at the back of the queue were ever going to be attended to. Now, this happens on a daily basis. It has been so for longer than COVID has been with us. Yet nothing is done to alleviate the problem. And this is just in Cape Town. We know from the ground up report that at any given time in South Africa, on any given day, if there are 3 Master's offices out of, I think, the 16, I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Minister, what precisely are you doing to turn around the Master's office? And it's no good telling me that you've just appointed a new Chief Master. One man cannot turn this around. So there's an entire superstructure of senior management in the Master's office. And why has it been allowed to deteriorate like this? And why is this allowed to continue? I really do need to hear that from you. And the same applies to the maintenance courts. People go and sit outside the maintenance courts for assistance on a daily basis. They sit for days and days and days. They go back for many days consecutively. They go back. And they're lucky if they get helped in 1 week. Now, most people have to work for a living. Most people can't afford to go and sit at court for 5 days on the trot to sort out their maintenance issues. What are you doing to sort out the absolute calamity that maintenance courts are? And how are we going to help the people of South Africa to get their maintenance issues sorted if this is the kind of service that they're getting? I have many more questions, Mr. Chair, but I'll see what my colleagues ask. If there's anything important left over, then I'll ask for a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jacqueline Mufokeng.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for the presentation, Minister. And congratulations to the department. In 1 week, you opened 2 correctional facilities, and that goes to also your Deputy Holomisa and the team. Minister, Chair, through you, I think we welcome the overview of the Minister, the political report, and it's very clear that he actually knows the operational matters and the challenges, I'll say the good and the bad. And one issue that I know he's been worried about, it has been also raised now by Honorable Breitenbach about the Master's office. And I will say that the issue that we need to get a report on is what your department said they are having investigations in those offices that are done by SIU. And I think it's going to be important that we know what is happening, because it will be very unfair for a Chief Master to come in and then we are not fighting or you are not helping in making sure that the cabals, I'm in Pretoria, not in Cape Town like Honorable Breitenbach, and I know of the cabals in that office. And I think it's high time that we are open and talk about it, that the Chief Master must get a support. But also you need to look at the succession plan of the department. You need to get a generational mix. We cannot say that you don't need the old people, but let us get also the young people that are going to make sure that they take over, because you have a lot of dead wood. That is a fact that I can tell you in many departments. And for you to get it right is to make sure that the 23% that we talk about, you give those experienced ones to be actually helping those that are coming in. I actually am happy that I think Honorable Horn raised the issue of the DDG. That is very important that we have it very soon. But also the issue that worries one is the issue, Minister, of the security guarding services. We cannot just keep quiet about this, because it's one issue that is really disturbing. We have to know what is happening in that regard. because they reported about it, but it will be very good that maybe you should be the one that pushes on making sure that there's the security. We don't want to see another Senegal and all those areas. Now, on the issue of the maintenance court, it was also raised now that I want to check, because people that are queuing every day, I've checked, I've been there on my oversight, on my constituency work. Most of them, it's people that cannot trace those partners of them with the warrant of arrest. Now the question will be, can't you work with South African police services, because they have roadblocks all the time? Can't you just make sure that they even have a list and arrest those people? Because if it goes to now festive season, some of them will be happy to be wherever they are, but they left their children and their families without anything. That is one thing that I've been thinking about, and it has been coming many times from most of the people that are talking about. The last one, Minister, is about the TRC recommendations. The department had 5 actually plans, but nothing happened in that regard. And I think it's very important that we look at this issue, because it has been there for a very long time. And the issue of the appointments, when you actually look at the issue of state legal services, a number of female advocates at the different associations are less than those of males. I mean, we need to talk and say that it should happen. Women must be given an opportunity to also have those services in that department and any other departments. I'm sure your department can assist a lot in making sure that they are assisted. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nieuwoudt Dragan. Honorable Nieuwoudt Dragan, can you unmute yourself?
Trudy, unmute. Trudy, unmute. Apologies, Chair. There's a technical error.
Can we go to Mr. Swart whilst we are still dealing with that technical error?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. My apologies for being a little bit late, and I have been largely covered by my colleagues in just also echoing the concerns expressed about the state of the department. And yes, there are many people that are working very hard and doing their very best to turn both the Department of Justice and Correctional Services around. But as you've pointed out, there are some serious challenges, and we have highlighted them in our hearings. The Auditor General has highlighted them, and even the Acting Director General has admitted the issues facing it. So I did also want to ask about when the Director General will be appointed, and so that we can also, and what steps will be taken to improve the performance of the departments of Justice and Correctional Services. We do, and the issue I think you did touch on was the filling of vacancies. We understand that there are challenges with the financial constraints. So the one question is, to what degree will the financial constraints that have been placed upon both departments impact upon the filling of vacancies? Then I would like to ask the issue of the masters, the maintenance. There used to be a project of naming and shaming offenders who consistently failed to pay their maintenance by publishing their names in the media. Is that a project that would be reconsidered, given the fact that there are many desperate, mainly women who are desperate for their maintenance payments, and it is an issue that we would like to see something considered in that regard. I agree with the challenges at the Master's Office, and I'm so sure, Chair, that you would appreciate that this also affects the economy, where people are trying to wind up estates. This is something that we also need to address very urgently. I get calls of people that are trying to have the estates registered, basic issues to get things going, so they can open a bank account, an estate bank account, and it's not happening, and they're not able to get that assistance. And from what the Honourable Breitenbach indicated about the queues, it's just unacceptable. Chair, I raised in Parliament the other day with the Minister the issue of the funds that are owed by client departments to the Department of Justice that have been increased by over 400 million in the last year, and he did give me a broad answer. But I'd like to ask more specifically. I understand the Solicitor General provided a memorandum which the Minister forwarded to Cabinet, requesting Cabinet to address those client departments that owe money to the Department of Justice. Possibly the Minister, I don't think I asked you that specifically in Parliament, but possibly you could indicate whether Cabinet itself, and one presumes that ministers of those client departments that owe the Department of Justice funds will be held accountable to repay the monies due to the Department of Justice. Because I would like also to understand what impact does that have on service delivery, given the fact that there was a 2.4 billion that is owed. Is that on an overdraft? Is that money that's been taken from elsewhere? So that is a concern from my side. Chairperson, the last issue, I have raised this with the Deputy Minister as well, but I would like to ask what progress has been made with a draft bill to assist those persons who were arrested during the lockdown provisions and who paid admission of guilt mainly on trivial offences. What provision is being made to possibly expunge those criminal records that those people would have now picked up, given the fact that we as a committee have expressed our concern about the impact that those criminal records would have on job seekers. We indicated in our committee report that we might consider a committee bill should this not be dealt with. One understands there's a lockdown level 1 now, but is this something that the department is looking into? Thank you, Chairperson. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nuvo Drachen.
Hi, yes, Chair. Can everybody hear the interpreter?
Yes.
Minister, thank you for your overview. And in your overview, you said that there are many positives that have been achieved by the department. For example, the correctional facility that has that you are at now and that have been opened, and but unfortunately the negatives do outweigh the positives. The financial sorry, is there somebody else speaking? For example, the status of the department and financial concerns.
HR.
Sorry, is there somebody else on the line? And can the host spotlight Wilma? Somebody speaking.
On his phone, can you switch it off?
No, it interrupted, blocking the voice.
Chair, can we request that they pin also Honorable Verma, please?
Can you pin Honorable Verma Drachen?
Is Wilma spotlighted for everybody? Okay, great. So Minister, I wanted to ask you then, in terms of the lack of capacity, I would like to know that within the next few months, as you're working on the turnaround strategy, how how will this factor be addressed, this lack of capacity? How will it be addressed in terms of a strategy? Will it need the employment of new staff, for example? And as somebody had mentioned, we have high skills, people who are highly skilled in the country, but we still have cases of lack of capacity. So how would that be addressed? And then in terms of the audit committee, what is the minister's view on the audit committee, the internal audit committee? Is there a lack of capacity in that committee? And what kind of assistance is the internal audit committee really giving to the department in terms of finance issues, especially considering some of the challenges related to finances in the department? And then we have been hearing gender-based violence is a huge issue in the country, and we have been working on the bills in these past few weeks. And we've been concerned that will the department be up to standard to implement these bills that we're working on? And, will it actually happen? Because the victims, who are women and children, are looking to all of us, especially this sector, to ensure that gender-based violence, the perpetrators are arrested, and all the measures are implemented, and the offenders must be arrested, because the victims are really suffering in this case. So, Minister, are you sure, or are you confident that they can be implemented? And I would like to congratulate the concept of the Thuthuzela care centers, their work that they're currently doing. And I would like to encourage establishment of more Thuthuzela care centers and more public awareness, making the public aware of the care centers. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nivot Dragant. I think before the Minister responds, I have just a few issues. One issue, after the appointment of the people you have just indicated, the DG and the others, currently we have a vacancy rate of 23%. So after these people have been appointed, by what percentage will this vacancy rate go down? Because I wouldn't want us to stay here and spend time only to find that the positions we have just announced, they barely reduce the high vacancy rate in the senior management. So I think it would be important to know by how much, because currently we're standing at 23% vacancy rate in senior management. The second issue is that does the minister receives quarterly reports? And if the minister receives the quarterly reports from the DG and targets are not being met consistently, what remedial actions did you put in place to ensure that targets are being met? The last quarter was 45% of the targets that were met. And by your own admission, the performance of the department has been going down. And we would like to know that if this has been coming to your attention, what remedial actions did you put in place to ensure that you deal with the issue? I would love to have a situation where we are able to really evaluate your comments and your performance the next time we meet. And I think for now, if you can tell us that the plan we are talking about, because we want a plan that we can be able to evaluate. We don't want broad strokes. We want something that is going to be, we know that when we meet, like we do with the annual performance plan, that we talked about a rescue plan, which was much more of a grave concern than the previous year, which was also a grave concern that was expressed by our committee. And this year, the concern was much more of a grave concern than the previous year. So we would want to have something that is watertight as to what kind of an intervention that is going to be made. For instance, are you convinced that if there are problems of a culture of lack of accountability, that the department on its own can be able to turn around and suddenly develop a new culture? And if no, what are those measures that are going to make the department to develop a new culture, a culture of where there is consequence management? What are the practical things that are being put in place to ensure that we can be able to sit comfortably with the knowledge that we have? If I am a young person in Umqanduli, unemployed, going to bed hungry, and suddenly I am told that the department, my department, has underspent by 754 million. I am told that irregular expenditure that is under investigation is 800 million. How do you think I must feel? And it would not generally be enough that the political leadership has identified those problems and there is no robust something that can say, okay, there are these problems, but I can be able to say, for instance, in June, I can be able to go and tick to say, based on the plan that was presented by the political leadership of the department, this has been achieved, this has not been achieved. Honorable Horn raised an issue, which is an issue that we need to really apply ourselves to how do we define sometimes success. I'm quite happy that the minister has opened a new facility, but that facility was supposed to have been done in 2007. Can we say it's a success? Were there any cost overruns? So in totality, can we really say it is a success? So I think, Minister, I think on behalf of South Africans, we think that we have to heighten oversight, because these are the things that sometimes do not really affect me and you, but they affect people who have no recourse, who have no resources to have any kind of recourse. And if political leadership, in this case ourselves included, and we are paying, I really do think that we need more. We need, and you can tell us by when should we expect something that it's a plan, and a plan that is going to be implemented. Honorable Mfokeng raised an issue of security in courts. And I would like to extend it. I would like to extend the question further. And I think also in your capacity as a member of the JPS cluster, whether it is right for private security companies, that most of them are foreign owned, to guard assets of the state, to guard offices of the state, where serious secret information of the sovereign is there. And the Chief Justice has complained bitterly over time about the issue of lack of security in courts. And the threat it poses is that you will have prosecutors, magistrates, and judges who might end up fearing to prosecute or to impose certain sentences because their security is at risk. And that undermines the rule of law. I would love to hear your because we have been trying to probe the department on this issue. We have been getting answers, but we're not getting results. Let me leave it at that. Okay. The last one, Minister, that I would like to raise as a comment is that members of the executive individually and collectively are accountable to Parliament. Now, if we are going to have a policy on judicial governance that has been with Cabinet since 2009, it was submitted to 2019, and we know as the committee the challenges that we are experiencing as a result of that policy not being concluded. I think it is just a matter of time before we are going to be posing those questions directly to the head of state and the deputy president, who I'm told leads this particular process. It can't be that we are going to have a lacuna because Cabinet is not finalizing a policy that should be guiding judicial governance. And as a result, certain practices are developing that we would have no control over after some time. They would, and those practices would not have been guided by anything. And you have been given as Cabinet a responsibility to lead on that particular area. And the Chief Justice is developing his own practices, is directly accounting to the people. There's nothing guiding us. And it is really unfortunate that up to now, that policy is not approved. And very soon, I think it would be important that we'll start really raising this matter with the head of state through questions and demanding accountability and ensuring that this matter is resolved. Thank you, Minister. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will try to answer as many questions as possible, and the two DMs, they could add if there could be anything that I might have missed. The first one was the issue why the critical issues that have been identified remain unresolved, and why there has been lack of consequence management. From the reports of both departments, if I may start with the Chairperson, is that there has been consequence management that has been meted out in both departments. For example, in the Department of Correctional Service, 96 disciplinary hearings of officials, resulting in 93 officials being found guilty in disciplinary hearings. The sanctions meted out were as follows: 24 dismissals, 1 demotion, 14 suspensions without salary as an alternative to dismissal, 26 final written warnings, 4 written warnings, 23 corrective counseling, and 1 verbal warning. 3 officials were not found guilty. In the Department of Justice, if I may, Chair, is that in terms of consequence management in the Department of Justice and Court, 6 people have been charged with various cases which range from misrepresentations and corruptions. And 2 of the cases have been finalized within the period of 6 months. Will be finalized in the period of 6 months. And we have, I have appointed a labor relations task team of specialists that will soon give me a consolidated report of all the cases across the country and why they have not been finalized up to now, because there have been lots of some of them where there are still issues, and some of them you'll find that it's very minor issues that could have been resolved by the management concern, because it's an issue of just management in that particular section or unit. On the issue of the filling of the vacancies, what percentage will it make? It's a huge percentage that it makes of about 1.5%. But the key thing about this filling of the vacancies is that there will now be heads of of those units who will then be able to lead the process to fill the vacancies of the entire unit and those challenges that are afflicting the units, because it is clear that the challenges we have are issues of management and leadership in the various sections. So when there is a leadership for that particular section, it helps to have someone to be held accountable when there are challenges. With regards to when are we going to fill the post of the DG, as I've said, it is now a process of cabinet. We are hoping that cabinet can be able to finalize this process by the end of this year, hopefully, so that whoever is appointed could be able to begin by the 1st of Jan or by the 2nd of Jan next year. But as Chair is aware, it is not really in our hands, but we're doing all we can to ensure that this process does go through those stages of cabinet. The issues of ICT and capital infrastructure, they remain our urgent priority. And with regards to ICT, we are in the process of finalizing the governance structure that will enable us to hold somebody accountable, but also will enable us to have an implementing group of people, of senior managers that are linked to all the departments that are supposed to be rolling out or integrated in terms of the integrated justice management system. And we are also filling necessary and critical posts in that space that will enable us to manage the rollout and also ensure the implementation is accountable within the department, because most of the people working in this program have been on contract, but the department is currently through the new microstructure that is being developed, will be able to fill some of the vacancies and absorb and ensure that there are people that are leading from the department side, like a position of GITO, which is a CIO and so forth within the department, that could be able to drive this process. The capital expenditure one, it's a challenge, as you are aware, Chair. It's always a Department of Public Works issue that we continuously engage with them. But the department is open to explore other avenues, and that could help us to deliver infrastructure on time, including to find collaboration with the Department of Correctional Services where offender labor could be used, because some of the rural courts, offender labor could be helpful, like it has been done in the Middelburg area. The issue of exploring alternatives of project management, it's an issue that is on the table, and there is that discussion with the Public Works. And there's also been a discussion with Public Works to delegate some of the maintenance of critical infrastructure to the regions, the easy ones that could be done by regional heads in the various parts of the country, including the office of the OCJ. That has been agreed upon with Public Works. Then the issue of the high profile people escaping the country that has been raised. We have put processes in place, Chairperson. As you will remember, last year when we were here, you asked us about the same issue. And for example, with the country like the UAE, there was collaboration. At the time, they had given us some answers that we did not know, because ourselves don't have access to the information that they provide. Our role is to ensure that the information comes and we forward it to the relevant authorities like the NPA. And the NPA went through the information and they said the information is not helpful. So as we speak now, we can say that what has been provided to us has not really been helpful, in particular with regards to the UAE, and we continue to engage with them. But it is becoming apparent to us that they are not really cooperating with the requests that we have sent of mutual legal assistance. And with the there is also just a misconception in the public domain that it is only the Department of Justice that can resolve the challenges of the briefing patterns. And if you look into the website and the report of the Department of Justice, almost 83% goes to black practitioners. And it's a budget of about 1 billion, which goes to black practitioners. But it will still not resolve the challenge. The challenge is that we have no control with state parastatals budgets, which have got huge budgets like ESCOM, Transnet, and other state parastatals of who and how they brief. While the Office of the Solicitor General may in the future get some kind of devices in terms of the act that will enable it to develop some policy that could guide in that regard. But as we speak, we have no control. The local municipalities and the main state-owned enterprises, including the private sector, where we are currently in engagement with the Legal Practice Council, which is doing a great work of consulting across the country in terms of the legal services code that they will want to publish in terms of the BE Act, which will help also to persuade the private sector to also play its role in terms of the briefing patterns for black lawyers and also female practitioners. In the funds owed to the department, I think I agree with Honorable Swart. Indeed, we have communicated with the other counterparts of our departments, and it's an issue of concern because it does affect the operations of the department. That they are so that there's huge amounts of money that are also owed to the office of the state attorney. I think what worries us with this in particular, Honorable Chair, is that government departments do not mind not to pay us for any of the issues that they are supposed to pay, the disbursements, the money due for advocates and so forth. But they do mind to pay us. They create all manner of reasons and they don't pay. But when they go to brief private lawyers outside the office of the state attorney, they pay with no qualms. They have no problem effecting payments, and those legal practitioners get paid and all that kind of thing. So this is another gray area that we are looking at ways with the Solicitor General of how do we close this gap, so that also ourselves are not affected and depleted by the departments that do not pay for the disbursements and other issues that relates to what is due to the office of the state attorney. Whether we have the capacity to implement the draft bills, indeed it's a difficult challenge which we are still in engagements even within ourselves and in the entire security cluster. But the reality is that we'll have to find the means and the resources to implement the bills, because they are an outcome of discussions between government and civil society. And how will we plan to deal with the issues of lack of capacity? Obviously, this is one of the issues where we have got a plan in terms of it is also having the budget to implement the plan of those departments. So with all these budgetary cuts, it creates an implementation challenge, which we still have to find ways to live without some of these resources that have been there in the past. What is the role of the audit committees and the internal audit committees? They continue to play their role and give us some flags and raise the issues in terms of the audit that from time to time they see in terms of risks in the department. obviously is not as easy for them because they are internal and so forth. But we encourage that they should be able to do their job without any favor or anything, because they should be our own internal watchdogs in the department. I think I have answered the one of what percentage would these positions that have been filled cover. The issue of how we're going to evaluate this I think it's already in terms of the APPs, but also ourselves as the members of the executive have signed an agreement with the president, which is measurable and which will enable members of society, including the committee, to measure our performance against that performance agreement that we have signed with the president, and also the issues that we have committed here in terms of the turnaround strategy that has now been developed in the Department of Justice are issues that the committee will be able to hold us accountable for and be able to evaluate whether we are getting there or not. On the issue of the Zanini facility, Chair, whether it's a success or not, I think we should look at the other way around, Chairperson, in that when it was not being operationalized and open, the committee was complaining, saying, but you have been threatening to open this Zanini Center. You have been saying you will operationalize. With the public works, and also or whoever might be an implementing agent for the department with regards to the backlog of our in terms of infrastructure. The issue of guarding of security in the courts, Chair, I think you have asked a very good question, because it's a question that we have also asked the management ourselves in the department. And the chairperson will be pleased to know that maybe in the past 2 or 3 months, one of the reasons why the department has been extending the current contract is because they are doing a feasibility study to answer exactly that question, whether we need private security, what could be the role that we can play ourselves and the SAPS, because the courts are adjacent in most of the parts of the country to the South African police services. What is it that we can leverage from them, and where we may really still need a private security? What level and how and when, and what is the level of security that we need in each and every court? So that will be answered by that feasibility study that is ongoing, Chair, and hopefully soon we will be able to have an answer, because it is also a question that has always been in our minds. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I hope I have answered most of the questions. If not, I will request DMs to also come in.
Thank you very much, Minister. DMs, do you want to say something?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairperson and honorable members, Minister. I don't think, Chairperson, there's much that one can add to the comprehensive presentation that the Minister has given, save just to emphasize the challenges that are facing us when we are trying to fill the vacancies, for instance, that have been there for quite some time. In the sense that when we seek, for instance, to ensure that we comply with the Employment Equity Act in terms of gender equity, a number of vacancies that were filled, we find that we are not able to meet that requirement of ensuring gender equity and also racial equity, if you like, because we often find that very few female candidates put up their hands for consideration for appointment, and we end up having to deviate from the requirements by employing more male members in those positions. We are aware that we are in a position, as we've been made to understand, that, for instance, we can do some head hunting, but the pressure we have for us to fill these vacancies is just that sometimes that is not a feasible or viable option because we, at the end of the day, we end up having some of our funds taken back by Treasury because we have not been able to use them. But we are trying all we can to look into that. Regarding the matter of relief on the overcrowding that we suffer, at the current moment, as of the 17th of November, out of the 19,000 offenders that qualify for the presidential parole in terms of the COVID-19 incident, we have so far released some 13,008 parolees, which is giving some relief to the overcrowding that we are suffering, which means that if my arithmetic is correct, over 7 working days, we should have released the requisite number. But of course, we have to bear in mind that at all times, we have to ensure that the requirements that have to be taken into consideration by the parole boards are not neglected, and therefore we find ourselves in that kind of situation. And as the Minister has said, we are indeed effecting as a Department of Correctional Services disciplinary measures to ensure that there are some consequences, as has been indicated. Some have resigned, some have decided some have been disciplined, some have been given warnings, some have been fined, and so on and so on. But there's a lot that we still need to do. For instance, the matter of self-sufficiency is a matter that we have to work on very vigorously. We have so much talent, both talent that came with the officials, the offenders when they were incarcerated, and also those who acquired these skills through the rehabilitation programs. But we still continue to get services and goods outside of our facilities. And our goal as the ministry is to ensure that as soon as possibly we are able to produce goods and services for ourselves, so that we are not in a situation where we have to buy stuff that we should be in a position to produce and acquire from within our own entities. We have taken a decision that there must be a trading entity that has to ensure that beyond our self-sufficiency in terms of what we produce, were able to sell some of the products to other sister departments and even outside of our centers. But as you would know, Chairperson, bureaucratic red tape and requirement to consult and get the buy-in from other departments, particularly Treasury, do tend to slow down the pace at which we are supposed to be performing what was wanted to do. But as I said, the minister, in my view, has covered everything that we were in a position to raise, unless there are more questions that have arisen out of the responses that he has given. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I don't see any further hands from members. I guess that they are covered. Honorable Swart?
No, I wondered if the DM would have responded to the issue I raised about the bill dealing with the admission of guilt fines and the impact that criminal records have on job seekers, and when the department envisages that they will bring that draft amendment, given the committee's already response on this issue in our committee reports. I'm not sure I don't think that was covered yet.
Okay, I think, Chairperson, I will request that we allow the acting DG to respond to this question of Mr. Swart.
Thank you very much, Acting DG.
Thank you, Chair. I think I can respond to the question insofar as where we are with the preparation of the bill. A draft is prepared, and it was not on the legislative program for this year. We've just prepared another amendment in respect of the records of children being published following a court case. But the expungement and the admission of guilt matter is in development. I haven't spoken to the officials in that to give you a more detailed report, but if I can have 5 minutes, I can come back on this platform just to advise where we are with it.
Thank you very much. Minister, how far is the land court bill? It's one of the issues you promised when you took over that it's your priority, so that we can have one of the issues you raised, that the judges of the land court